Child of the Enlightenment. Along the Rhine, September 11th, A.D. 1795. I step into this contraption of light wood, essentially a large basket fit for one man. Firmly attached to the top is an egg-shaped skeletal frame wrapped in burlap and lined with silk taffeta, a large sack. A fire is lit, igniting damp straw and this and that, and topped with more straw. The coarse, hot smoke funnels securely into the buffeting silk. Once puffed up with hot gases, the entire contraption, this hot-air Montgolfier balloon, along with its passenger, me, rises into the sky and tentatively sails toward the heavens. A cable securing the balloon is manned by a ground crew from the French Army's Aerostatic Corps. Aloft in our balloon on this autumn late afternoon, the sensation of those first minutes is indescribable. Like a 32-year-old schoolboy, I gaze in astonishing anticipation of wondrous sights to come. Officially, that means an elevated view of the enemy's positions and movement. This decade-old invention enabled the privilege of flight to a mere handful of humans preceding me, while countless previous generations could only imagine a bird's-eye view of our world. The balloon image is in stark contrast to Da Vinci's Renaissance sketches of a flying machine. Nevertheless, that age-old dream is the same, to go where no man has gone before. Our hot-air balloon, christened l'Entreprenant, the Enterprise, was first made available to the army of Sambre and Meuse on the eve of the Battle of Fleurus. The Enterprise is the next generation of the original Montgolfier balloon, which was incredibly inspired by the movement of drying laundry in proximity to smoke. Although considered by some to be a distracting novelty, my division obtained access to the Enterprise a year after its debut at Fleurus. An unofficial truce had been in effect for 3 months. However, I grew suspicious of an impending surprise attack. I reviewed reconnaissance reports, but desired the experience. After all, I reasoned, if my large, hook nose, regal bearing, and French general's uniform evoke the human version of a majestic eagle, why not play the part? At 1800 hours on September 11th, 1795, the 11th anniversary of the first launch of a balloon with live creatures, I decided to see for myself what it was like to fly. I, Jean-Baptiste Bernadotte, became history's first army general to personally manage an aerial enemy observation mission. Armed with a spyglass, I first see our headquarters and installations, munitions, the horses, the supply wagons on the west bank of the Rhine River. Quickly, the quaint little town of Andernach appears, its church tops nestled amid a market square. Then the storied Rhine, surrounded by the scenic countryside of vineyards, scattered farms, and forests. I note signs of our troops ensconced along the west bank. To the north, our presence can be viewed all the way to the Königswinter mountain. In this panorama of the Upper Rhine, several castles, at least 4 or 5, evoke fairy tale images such as a Grimm or a Goethe might conjure. To the south, I see as far as the outskirts of Koblenz, beyond which I know our operations stretch all the way to Bingen. The east side of the Rhine draws my attention, much as I am seeking evidence of the enemy in Austrian-controlled territory. Alas, this mission would end in disappointment. The hopeful first minutes dimmed quickly as the view to the east faded. I looked in vain, expecting the late afternoon sun to illuminate the Rhine's east bank, but gray clouds obscured the light. Instead of clearing, it got worse. Winds picked up, sounding like the ghost of Lorelei, the enchanting Rhine mermaid of yore, whose beautiful voice led doomed sailors to shipwreck. Lorelei hailed me from along the river's edge, where an immense rock juts outward and upward. Darker clouds roll across the heavens, threatening a storm. The plaintive siren calls of Lorelei's ghost become blood-curdling shrieks of despair. Within minutes I can barely see an outline of the horizon, the enemy fading in obscure shadows. The fairy tale turned grimmest when the castles, one by one, appear to fall off the earth entirely. Then the Enterprise's cable nearly detached from its frame. Was I to be Lorelei's next victim? I was forced to abort the mission after 20-some minutes. I concluded that the hot air balloon was militarily unreliable, merely an exotic toy for eccentric noblemen with money and time and straw to burn. Others agreed with me. A few years later, the Balloon Corps was disbanded by General Bonaparte. The Rock of Gibraltar remains in British hands, unthreatened by flying Frenchmen. But the public loved it. Today, the balloon mania sensation continues unabated throughout Europe. Man-made flight reflected this age of reason, our Enlightenment era of remarkable new ways to think about the natural sciences, as well as philosophy and politics, that forever transformed European society. As it transformed me, an enterprising Republican general, airborne over the Rhine, once upon a time. By Roy Everson, based on a true story.